Bruce Feldman had it, and Ross Dellinger had it yesterday. These are two of the biggest names in college football that cover the sport. Dellinger, of course,
very well connected to LSU.
Absolutely.
Specifically, both of those guys are.
Dellinger reported or tweeted 13 hours ago, adding to our earlier report, UNLV and LSU's Dave Aranda are in serious negotiations. School is working on a deal to make him its new head football coach. UNLV has a new facility. They'll play in the Raiders' new stadium and is promising significant financial support for Dave Aranda and his potential staff. Bruce Feldman followed up that tweet just a couple of minutes later saying that sources, LSU defensive coordinator Dave Aranda has emerged as the focus of the UNLV head coaching search, and a deal could be sorted out as early as within 24 hours. And last night, probably while you were asleep and waking up this morning, Adam Rittenberg tweeted out sources telling him that LSU defensive coordinator Dave Aranda is emerging as a strong candidate is now not the case. If you're up now, Dave Aranda has moved on from UNLV. UNLV has moved on from Dave Aranda, and he is out of the running.
It stands now.
Here's the tweet from Rittenberg that he tweeted 8 hours ago. Sources telling me now that LSU DC Dave Aranda is not expected to be the next UNLV head coach. There were some initial talks from both sides, but no offer was made. Oregon offensive coordinator Marcus Arroyo remains a strong candidate for the Rebels job. So at the current state, that's where it sits.
Yeah, and I do want to highlight that, right? These situations are always fluid. Nothing's ever final until it's final. I mean, there were some... I thought there were some very strong opinions and takes that I trust that basically said that Lane Kiffin was already at Arkansas, right? And then he ends up at Ole Miss. And so you never quite know what's going to happen. That said, it looks like Aranda is staying. What did you think about the reaction to Aranda maybe potentially leaving, which was obviously all over the place? Some people upset, some people wishing him the best. What would you think about a potential Aranda departure?
Well, I think it's inevitable. I think it's going to happen.
It's what happens when you hire good people.
It's what happens when you have good football coaches on football staffs that are succeeding. A lot of attention is coming that way. And Dave Aranda has been knocking on the door for a head coaching opportunity for about 2 years. I think his name has been kicked around at smaller schools. When I saw UNLV initially, I kind of had a little bit of a head-scratching reaction to the fact of, I don't know why you would leave the salary that you're making in coaching the type of athletes that you are at LSU to go to UNLV and start there, because I think that Aranda has the reputation and the opportunity to be in a position similar to what Jimbo Fisher, Bob Stoops, Kirby Smart, where you can sit in a coordinator role, coach the best players in the country, develop a reputation for being an elite coach, and kind of wait on a Georgia job, on an Oklahoma job, in Bob Stoops' case, where he was a defensive coordinator for Steve Spurrier and the Florida Gators for a while there, where he just kind of turned down jobs that he just said, look, I'm just going to wait. I know that I'll have my opportunity. Jimbo Fisher did it at LSU, getting the Florida State job. And, of course, Kirby Smart's the best example of waiting as long as he did as Alabama's defensive coordinator and then stepping into the Georgia job for the first time. So, I think Aranda has that type of opportunity now, at LSU.
If I was to think about the difference between Aranda and those guys, I feel like maybe this is wrong because I was pretty young. I mean, I don't really remember the Stoops thing going down at all. But, like, did those guys have more of a public profile? Because I feel like it just feels like those are characters. That's probably because they spent years as major head coaches and I got to know them as such. But when it comes to like recruiting and personality and everything, Dave Aranda, while his name is widely respected and I think well known throughout the college football world, like you never see him, right? Like not a lot of people actually know much about his personality.
Here's what I would tell you about his reputation that he has as a recruiter within his staff is that he's a closer. That they bring him in at the end, which sounds a lot like a head coach in those roles. I mean, Orgeron's really the outlier of a head coach where he's the best recruiter on the staff. Yeah. Right? I mean, your head coach is usually a guy that you can send in late and close. Orgeron is a guy that loves the entire part of the process and goes through it. I mean, he's flying to 9 stops in one day, you know, and visiting kids at schools and in homes. I don't think you get that. Aranda is kind of more of the recruiting head coach fit where you just bring him in at the end. He gives you the plan. He closes the deal. I will tell you that he doesn't have the personality that those guys do.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he doesn't have the outgoing personality. But, you know, Jimbo Fisher and Bob Stoops aren't leading stand-up comedy acts You know, I mean, those aren't guys that are real endearing.
No, and it's just a different style. I mean, I could picture Dave Aranda sitting there and very intelligently and calmly selling you on the idea that you should come play for him. I mean, he carries himself with a kind of quiet confidence that just kind of exudes from him naturally.
I wonder if his name even came up for the Missouri
So
job,
that's where
Arkansas
it gets weird.
job.
That's where it gets weird to me, right? Mizzou specifically,
where
you hire a guy in Eli Drinkwitz who...
Did you see at the opening press conference, he said, we're going to do all we can to win the Sun Belt?
Yeah. Yeah, awkward. Then the guy was like, "You just did that."
I mean the SEC. I mean the SEC. No, it's out there, coach. It's living. We got B-roll of it and audio. You're dead, man.
But Drinkwitz is a guy who. Do you realize how much he got paid? He got paid $4 million per year. He is making more than Lane Kiffin is at Ole Miss.
Wow.
Eli Drinkwitz is. I have no idea how that is the case, but he is making more.
That's how much you have to pay somebody to come to Missouri.
He was making $750,000 at App State.
Are you kidding?
My man just got a
$750 to $4 million.
He got a 400% raise. That's Joe Brady type of raise right there. It's and he's under 40. And what's weird about Drinkwitz is he doesn't have the coordinator skins on the wall that a Dave Aranda does.
Yeah.
He has 1 year as head coach at App State where, I mean, his own players, after he announced he was leaving, there were tweets from players about like, look, man, our culture was already established here. Like, he had to buy into us. We didn't have to buy into him. So, yeah, he had a really good 12-1 year at App State, but that's his 1 year as a head coach. Before that, his greatest accomplishment is the NC State offensive coordinator. His player, when I was reading, Mizzou beat writers talking about the hire, the guy that they're talking about that he can lay claim to is Ryan Finley. That's the and look, maybe Drinkwitz ends up being good. I'm not saying that because one thing I like about it's a very outside the box hire. He's super young, 36 years old, supposed to be offensive minded, but man, $4 million a year seems like a hell of a commitment with a guy with nothing. Like I said, no real great accomplishments to his name. And then a guy like Dave Aranda, who is obviously interested in being a head coach at a major school, as well he should be. And I guess that's the point I wanted to make about Aranda is that obviously you're going to have people, you're going to see all reactions online, right? And a lot of people were upset with him for leaving or how could he do this at this time? Where, look, man, everybody wants to maximize their own career and their own potential. Every great football coach, or most, I should say, eventually want to be a head coach. Any job that you work, you probably have had fantasies or daydreams about being the boss, about being like having no one above you, about you being the guy that gets to make all decisions and building that business or job in your image. And I don't think you can fault Dave Aranda at all for wanting to eventually do that. I just, I hope that LSU gets as much out of him as they can in the interim because he is an incredible defensive coordinator.
This is the cycle of a coach.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. You work your way up to a coordinator. You get and form a reputation of somebody that can run your own program, and you move on to become a head coach. It helps out LSU's program when that happens as well.
The one thing that I would have thought would maybe be disappointing, and if he does leave would be disappointing, is that you have spent a few years rebuilding the defense personnel-wise in his image. And, look at what happened this year. The first time you finally have true 3-4 nose guards in Tyler Shelvin and Apuaika, and look at how impactful that's been. I mean, just go look at the Georgia tape from last week. And so if you did have to move on, I was wondering, do you go with a 3-4 coach, with a similar system? You just go with the best coach? But these are all conversations that it looks like we will have to save for a later day.